I guess the next thing is the thing that makes it the throttle pin. Let's see, how's that going? Okay, so that goes in, and then there's a fat nylon spacer goes on there, and then this guy goes on there. And then there's a skinny nylon spacer that goes in there. Hopefully we can get that lined up. Oops, too far. There we go. And that just slides right in. And then to hold it in place, you just line up the threads. I don't think it matters which way. You put this little 8mm guy in there. And this would be where my 8mm socket would be so handy. But I don't have it. Actually, I have two lost ones. Anyway. So we'll just do what we can with the tools we got. I really don't know where it went. I can't think of any other 8mm thing I've done. So that's all set. With that done, we can go ahead and put the top on. So here's the old gasket, and here's the new gasket, exactly the same. And our little cover here. There we go. And there we are. Okay, there's the top. We're running out of stuff to do, huh? Let's see. Let's get this bracket on here. Oh, one thing we can do right now is this little, sort of like an O-ring, but it's all notched. Right, here's the old one. This one got put in the wrong spot, and so he got kind of demolished. This one goes on here and goes down into that little crevice there. It's just sort of a little seal. This guy can go on, and these guys got all tore up. These were so hard to get off. They were really stubborn. Very happy to have new ones. So we got new ones here for the throttle cable bracket, I believe is what it's called, because your two throttle cables come in here, plus your throttle lever sits on here. Where's my okay. Let's see, spring goes on. The spring, the round hook goes up, and the square hook goes down. And might as well set it somewhere like here. Eventually that's going to hook to this part right here, but it'll be easier if we leave it off for now. And then let's see. Oh, yeah. Then we got this bushing here. It goes on. Might as well put that. That goes over that seal. Okay. then with the spring on, then this sits over that and holds it in place, this little protrusion right here. And then when you put this on, yeah, put it on sort of like this. Here's the little round bit the little round tab that the round part of the I'm doing this where you can't see it, but yeah, I just set that round tab over the spring, right? Okay, so that's on there, and you'll know it's in the right position because this flat spot here goes right above this bracket, and the the accelerator pump here, rod here, sits over here, sticks out the back of this, and then bends around and then down, right? Okay, so then we just got a lock washer and a nut. And I should have a socket for this. So we'll just snug that down. There we go. Okay. So now we got to get that square piece of spring over this notch. How did I do that last time? It gets kind of stubborn the closer you get. Oh, I did it! Look at that! First, well, kind of the first try. Look at that. Alright. I mean, unless you count all the other ones. But now you've got some tension on here. So that's going to pull your throttle back to idle. So now we have, what do we have? We got the throttle stop. Can go on there. Didn't do much with this because it's exposed anyway. So I just cleaned it up and left it kind of rusty. The problem with cleaning up stuff that's exposed to things like air and water is that if you clean all this rust off, it's just going to rust again. The threads are good though, so that's the important thing. So we got the little spring on there, right? And then this just goes on this little tab here, threads on there. And I'm going to go ahead and thread it until all those clean threads about disappear and start coming out the other side. Okay, so that would be where it was before I took it apart, and what that does is it keeps it from going too far up for some reason. Okay, so might as well do the idle speed adjustment screw, right? So that's all these little bits here. So this is kind of a neat way of doing things, I think. So this little plunger guy goes inside the actual knurled screw part, and then you've got this little plastic knob goes on there like so, and there should be a little gap so that can move. And then what you have is these two little notches, and there's a couple little clips. They're kind of weird shapes, so they go in here and you just kind of push them into place. Like so. Get the other one in place, and then there's a couple notches in that plunger that sit up against the flat bits of these clips. And so normally the thing sits like that, right? And then apparently when the bike is warm, it can sometimes be hard to start. So if you push the little button here and push that up, it gives you just that much extra throttle to help start a warm engine. And then you can undo it by pulling it back down again. Isn't that clever? That's kind of neat. And then this big old spring goes on there, and then this screws right into this bracket here. So sorry. Okay. And I have no idea where this is supposed to be, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put it on there until it just starts to lift this thing up, and then I guess I can adjust it later. Anyway, let's see. Let's go with this accelerator pump. So here's the, again, here's the old diaphragm, and here's the new one. Nice new. Give it out a little bit, not much. So is that too much? Is that okay? Okay, so we don't need grime collecting on it, right? And we don't need, oh, we're going to need some other parts here too. We're going to need this spring, we're going to need this longer spring, and we're going to need this little bushing here. So, let's see, so we're going to have, okay, yeah, so this, yeah, also make sure you don't get any crud on it while you're handling it. But, okay, so that spring goes in there, and then that goes on there like that, right? Okay, and then you've got your lever and cover. That goes on. Okay, but you also have to get your rod in there. So, okay, so the spring, this spring goes on the rod. Which way does it go? The little, so this is flared on one end, right? So, so the flare, I think, goes towards the end of the rod, and then you have this bushing with the small side out or down, whatever you want to call it, and then that whole thing just kind of pops in there onto this lever, right? So the skinny part of that bushing sits inside the hole in the lever. Okay, once that's done, you can put the screws in your cover here, and you'll be good to go. And here's more replacement screws. So I need these screws. Yeah, I'll grab it. Sorry. And there we go. There's that. And then to finish off this rod here, we've got a little nylon washer and cotter pin. Now mine has 3 different holes in it. I'm going to put it in the middle hole because I think that's where it was when it started. If I have some hesitation when I hit the throttle, I will adjust that and see see if another setting works better. But looking at like the rust spots and the wear marks and all of that, I think that's where it goes, or at least that's where it went originally. Okay, we're down to our last part here, or our last assembly, and that is the Enricher lever. Oh, and we're done with this because we done run out of diaphragms to lubricate. So, oh, and for some reason, probably because my carburetor is a little different than everyone else's, I have a spare replacement screw that doesn't fit anywhere. So, oh well. One thing that's really nice that came with the rebuild kit is this little spring and ball bearing. And what that was missing from my carburetor originally. I'm not the first person to open up this carburetor. It's been misassembled at least once. But so that little spring goes in this little hole right there, and then that ball bearing sits right above it, just like that, so you can push on it. So the ball bearing will go into that hole, but the spring pushes it out. And what that does is it lines up with this little indentation on the lever, and you can even see the score mark where the original one used to be. And that gives you a nice satisfying click, plus it probably holds it in place when it's either in use or not in use. I forget which. Okay, so at this point I need to consult this diagram that really is, that came with the replacement volt set. Yeah. So here's an extra bushing that I can't find any use for. So I'm going to set that aside. It originally came off of the lever here, but every schematic I see only has one bushing. So so what we got is we got the spring. Okay, this really short, fat spring. We've got this bracket here. We've got a nylon bushing, and then we've got this kind of, I don't know, spacer thing made out of like aluminum. So that's how those go together, and then we've got the old bolt that used to hold it all together, but now we've got a new one. Alright, and that all goes on without losing that little ball bearing, right? So I'll have to use some caution here. Okay, so we got the spring, we got this bracket, we've got the bushing that goes on that guy, and then that guy goes on the rest of this. And the idea is that bushing thing, that collar, whatever it is, should go down past the screw and meet up with that hole, or that flat surface right there. Okay, and then that whole thing, but it should go through the lever. That's what I really wanted to say, is it should go through that lever. See how that can compress and go right in there. And then so this whole thing goes on. However, you got to make sure you get that hook over the Enricher assembly, right? And then you get that screw in there. lined up? I don't know. Thought it was, but I don't think it is. Is that it? Okay. Okay. There we go. So that's lined up. Ball bearing's not going anywhere. Ooh, there we go. So now we can start tightening it, but I want to make sure that that collar thing goes through the lever. So I can just see it right there. Okay. As I compress it, yeah, it looks like... So the idea is we're squashing the screw and that collar up against the body, but we're leaving just a tiny space for the lever to work. Okay. So there it is, engaged. Click, and there it is, disengaged. And it will stay disengaged because of that little guy in there. Now you see how that moves, but the collar's not moving and the screw's not moving, but the lever's moving. That is exactly what we want. And just like that, I've run out of stuff to put on the carburetor. A couple other things that came with the rebuild kit are a mystery spring. I have no idea where that was supposed to go. And an O-ring, whose purpose I'm not sure of. I don't know. Hopefully that wasn't too painful to watch. Maybe you learned something. I don't know. Maybe this will encourage newbie bike mechanics to actually kind of tear into their carburetor a little bit. It's not that scary. Anyway, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.